Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Bob Mendelsohn, and this is the Bob's Your Uncle podcast. Today we speak with Devin Carney from Connecticut, a member of the House of Representatives there, and talk about making the world a better place. Thanks for joining me for this, Season 3, Episode 6 of the Bob's Your Uncle podcast. Of note, the music is Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto in E minor, and the opinions are strictly my own and those of my guests. You can now find us and comment to us wherever you get your podcasts. Tell us what matters to you, what triggers your joy, what bothers you in the world. Let us know. We'll see where the Spirit leads us. You might be on the road in Kansas City or at the gym in Sydney, wherever you are. Thanks for being with us these 18 minutes. As Season 3 continues, we're still looking for a new sponsor of the podcast. Are you interested? Contact me on bobmendo@aol.com for more information. Now, back to the podcast.
Don't know much about history. Don't know much biology. Don't know much about a science book. Don't know much about the French answer.
On this date in history, the 10th of January, in 1776, Thomas Paine published Common Sense, a 50-page pamphlet that sold more than 500,000 copies within a few months and called for a war of independence that would become the American Revolution. And in 1860, on this date, Florida seceded from the Union and in February 1861 joined the Confederacy. And that's the historical marker of the week. I first met Devin Carney's father and then mother in early 1980s in New York City, and then his famous grandfather in Connecticut some years later. Devin has become a legislator for the State House of Representatives and is a joy to speak with. I hope you enjoy this interview. Good morning, Devin.
Hey, Bob. How's it going? Long time no see.
Hey,
Yeah.
let me get right into it so you can get on to other things. You're a busy man, and I really appreciate your time. Devin, thanks so much for taking a few minutes to speak with me and the Bob's Your Uncle podcast audience. The election in your state, Connecticut, is in the rearview mirror now. How are you feeling?
For me, I feel really good. I did pretty well this year. Overall, my party didn't do so hot, but I am happy that I was able to win my fifth term.
Your district where you've represented your people, how would you characterize it as far as the demographics?
It's an older district. I've been told my district is the second oldest in the state. I'm not positive. Politically, I would refer to it as a purple district. Probably you've got roughly the same amount of Democrats and Republicans, a lot of unaffiliateds, actually more unaffiliated voters than Democrats or Republicans. So it's pretty moderate, older, probably middle to upper middle class district.
When you say unaffiliated, I reflect on religion. That's me. That's my work. And there is such a massive increase in what they call nuns, none of the aboves. I wonder if that's not characteristic of the whole country itself, not just religion, not just politics, but pretty much everything.
Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, definitely in politics, I think people either don't want to label themselves or a lot of people are concerned about how others will perceive them if they label themselves one party or another. I know a lot of folks that are in more public careers, like teachers, things like that, will register as unaffiliated. A lot of business owners will register as unaffiliated just to avoid any sort of controversy.
They don't get to vote in primaries, but they do in the general. Yeah. Look, we met back when you were only a lad, as we say, as a result of my meeting your father on the streets of Times Square in 1980. You may not even know this. He was wearing a New York Times crossword puzzle T-shirt. And when I commented on it, we became fast friends. Then I met your mother, and her story and mine had great similarities. Then your sister, and then, of course, you came along. It's been fun for me to see how you've settled in your career. How did you choose politics after all the choices you had?
Well, I guess it was a little bit. My predecessor asked me to run. I was really not involved in politics. I mean, I've always loved politics, but I wasn't really involved. I was very involved in the community, though, with a lot of nonprofits. I've lived here my whole life. My family is well known in the area. So she called me up one day and asked me if I had any interest, and I thought, sure. This is sort of the opportunity of a lifetime. Not many people can get elected to office, and I sort of, I knew I could win, and that's really a big reason why I jumped into it. But I did work hard. I mean, that first election I knocked on, probably about 6,000 doors. So I worked very, very hard that time and was very successful. And then, it's been a very rewarding, albeit stressful, but rewarding opportunity thus far.
You were elected in your 20s, weren't you?
I was, let me see. I was actually 30 when I actually got elected.
That's young.
Yeah.
Do people, you say your family's pretty well known, I would imagine. Do people know your grandfather was Art Carney?
Older people do. Younger people, they don't know Art Carney as well. But certainly a lot of older folks know who he was.
He and I share the same birthday, not the same year. He was older than my father. Do you have any memories of sharing time with him that you want to share?
Sure. I mean, when I was a kid, my parents got divorced, and he would pick me up twice a week at school. He would drive a black Camaro, so that was pretty cool. And we would just go do things. We would play mini golf. We'd go bowling. We'd get pizza, hot dogs. We would just spend a lot of time together as a grandfather and grandson. That just is just really unforgettable for me, and really made a deep impact on my life. So probably those memories of the two of us together are the ones that stick out the most.
I'm trying to do that with my grandsons just now.
Yeah.
What type of books do you find entertaining just now?
Books. I don't know. I mean, I guess I do read some political books. I do like philosophical books, things like that. I'm reading a book right now. It's almost like a self-help book. I can't say the title. I mean, there's a curse word in the title, but it's sort of a guide to deal with criticism, I guess, because that's one of the things in my job that can be rough sometimes, and just trying to let it go is something I should work more on. So it's a book sort of like about that.
I don't think it has a curse word. I think it has an asterisk, isn't it? Doesn't it?
It does. Yes.
Devin, I'm watching the American political scene from afar, and I find it all so fascinating. And one of the things we see, at least depending on which news network curates your information, is an inability for people to cross the aisle, they say, and work with the other team. Full disclosure, I don't know Connecticut politics at all. Yeah. Are you able to make all that happen and to get bills passed and help the folks in your state?
Yeah, one of the things that I was really proud of starting was a bipartisan future caucus. So it's legislators 45 and under. We started it 2 years ago to kind of come together, come up with issues that we can unite on. A lot of younger generations have issues, home buying, student loans, things like that are more unique to our generation. Home buying, of course, in the case that it's more expensive now than it was in the past. But we're trying to find common ground there. Connecticut is not similar to the federal government in the sense that we do a lot of bipartisan work together. We do have our differences of opinion, of course, but it's not as tense or combative as the federal government is. So not even close.
Well, the way you describe it is exactly the way I'm seeing it in a lot of religion and a lot of other enterprises, that the younger people are less strident than the older, dyed in the wool, fight to the death. And I wonder if, I'd hitch my wagon to your horses as they go up together, because I think the hope is really in the younger people.
Yeah.
I'm with you. What gets you up in the morning?
Just taking on a new day, trying to do as much, good as I can in that day. And, I have a great sense of responsibility, being the state representative. So I'm just always really looking at ways to improve my district, improve the state, things like that.
It's really a pleasure for me to hear that. If your mother won the $2 billion lottery last week, what would your advice be as far as how she should spend her new income?
I would definitely tell her to invest some. I mean, safe investments, but to invest some, most of it probably. And then, I'd encourage her to go to a place where she'd like to retire. I don't know where that is. I mean, a lot of people retire to Florida. I don't think my mother would want to go to Florida, but I'd encourage you to do that. And I'd encourage her to quit working. She just turned 70 this year, and she's still working. I thought she was going to retire, but she hasn't. So I would definitely, she's worked really hard her whole life. So I'd want her to take a nice vacation, nice break, and go from there.
Excellent. Well done taking care of your mom. We've got a pretty wide audience of the Bob's Your Uncle podcast, and I cover some things, but I want to give you an opportunity to tell us whatever you'd like that we haven't touched on, things that really drive you, things that matter the most to you, not just politically, but in life, anything that you want to tell the Bob's Your Uncle massive global audience that's listening.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it certainly, my work, my family really drives me. I'm 38, so kind of young, but trying to strive for the future, to leave, the world a better place than when I got here. So that's a big thing for me. Another a big issue for me is helping folks overcome addiction. That's been a big topic for me in Hartford. One of the things that I am really proud of, that I'd like to really push forward, is to open up a recovery school in the state of Connecticut. They have 5 in Massachusetts, I think 1 in Rhode Island, a couple in New York, which it would be a safe place for students grades 9 through 12 to go to get a high school diploma or work on their high school diploma, while also working on their recovery from whatever addiction they have. It's not just unique to Connecticut, but we've seen more people die of overdoses because of fentanyl. We've seen more people as a result of COVID being isolated, getting addicted to drugs, getting addicted to alcohol. So I think that's a really important thing for the state to be working on. Federal government too is trying to help folks that maybe have gone into some hard times, that could use that resource to get back on the right track.
Mental health has been aggravated and exposed as a greater need You're right. Since COVID, than I think ever before. You could say in New York City, if you had a therapist, it was a status symbol, like a Cadillac in Los Angeles back in the 70s.
Yeah.
But mental health now is not status; it's just reality. What are we going to do to help? And so this sounds like a beautiful program as far as recovery goes. And if that's kind of a sister situation to mental health concerns, and it's global. I mean, I'm seeing it in Australia, where I've lived for 25 years. It's now okay to talk about, are you okay?
Right.
You've seen that in your life shift?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, and I have noticed, I mean, we've done a lot on the state level working on mental health issues. I mean, that really were exacerbated because, I mean, they were there all along, but the pandemic really shined a light on a lot of that stuff.
Devin, I am so grateful for your time. You're a busy man. You're in Hartford, you're in Old Saybrook, you're all over the state. God bless you. Thank you for taking time to be with me. All the best to you and all your family. May I see them again in due course.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope we get to see you soon.
All the best.
All right. Thanks, Bob. It's nice to see you.
What do you think about all this? Write me on bobmendo@aol.com, or comment or even video to me on Instagram or Twitter at Bob'sYourUnclePC. I'd love to know what you think about all this. Don't forget to post a review on iTunes or Spotify, wherever you're getting your podcasts. And also, don't forget to subscribe. Every week, we read a portion from the #1 bestseller of all time, the Bible, and today's no different. This from Isaiah the prophet. Like a shepherd, he will tend his flock. In his arm, he will gather the lambs and carry them in his bosom. He will gently lead the nursing ewes. Next week, my guest will be a young woman, Kayla Mason from Canada, then California, now in the middle of the U.S., a meditation and yoga teacher, and an entrepreneur as well. Please continue to have a safe new year, and see you next week. Until then, from me, Bob Mendelsohn, when things seem bleak or uncertain, look up to God. He's in his heaven, and Bob's your uncle. Shalom from Sydney.